In this video, we will be showing you how to install a belt on a 300 series brush mulcher. The first thing to keep in mind when you're taking off the old belt is to remember how much spacers there is on each shaft, and also to pay attention to which spacers are installed behind or in front of the pulleys. The first assembly step would be to pry the rotor over to the belt chamber as much as possible, and then loosen the motor mount bolts if they are not already, and then loosen these belt tensioner bolts in order for the belt to be able to go on easier. Put your spacers, keys, taper hubs, and pulleys on the shaft. Remember to put in the same amount of spacers as there was when taking the belt assembly apart. With a straight edge, check if the pulleys line up within 1/8 of an inch. If they don't, make sure to add more or less spacers for both of the pulleys to line up. Then take the bottom pulley and taper hub off again, and then put the belt over the top pulley. Now rest the bottom pulley on the belt and install the taper hub again. If the shaft is still sticking out, then you will need to put another spacer on this side of the taper hub. Start the center bolts and tighten them up. Put the shaft extension through the top taper hub before starting the top center bolt. Put the taper hub bolts to the non-threaded holes on the taper hub, and then turn the hub to find the threaded holes on the pulley, then start the bolts. Now go around and evenly tighten the taper hub bolts, and then jam the rotor before torquing the bolts. Torque them to the right specification. In this case, the right specifications would be 60 foot-pounds for the top taper hub bolts, and the bottom taper hub bolts would be 15 foot-pounds. Make sure that the ribs on the belt are sitting nicely in the grooves of the pulley, then you can tighten the belt. Make sure to evenly tighten these belt tensioner bolts. The proper belt tension specs would be 1/2 inch deflection at 4 1/4 pounds of force on a new belt, and 1/2 inch deflection at 3 pounds of force for a used belt. You can then tighten the motor mount bolts. Check the belt tension once again. Using a straight edge, check once again if the pulleys are aligned. If they are not aligned within 1/8 of an inch, you will have to take one of the taper hub and pulleys off to add or remove a spacer. To remove a taper hub, loosen these bolts and start them in these holes. Then go around and tighten them evenly until the hub slips out of the pulley. But before installing the taper hub bolts again, make sure to sand the ends of the bolts down to prevent stripping threads. Then run it for a bit and inspect the belt before use.